Okay guys, welcome back. So Chris is still with us. We're diving into the woods now for the new line ST190. Now, Mizuno have had woods in the past.
Right.
This isn't the first entry into the market, obviously with woods, but it kind of feels like it is. For us, it kind of feels that way, that we now have it in the drawer, and it's really competitive with anything else out there.
It's funny how this line has been like a rebirth for Mizuno woods. We've had it for a long time. We've been making better and better woods for a long time, and something about this line has just clicked. It feels like, I don't know whether it's changing the color on it, changing the name, but it's been a build up on steadily getting more technology, steadily progressing, getting better and better with each one. But the ST190 line has been exciting for Mizuno just because we've seen fitters and studios embracing it because it performs.
And the ultimate validation as well has been tour players accepting it.
Right.
So it's one thing, having an account and sort of, the Salesforce, green grass and that sort of stuff, adopting it. But relationships can be in place. The best players in the world will not exchange their current driver for a new one unless it's an improvement. And that's been such a great thing to see this year.
That's exactly right. We've always talked about how our woods will perform with the best of them, and then it's been easy for a consumer to say, well, then why aren't your pros playing them?
I know.
But it's funny because you're exactly right. You have to prove not only tying, but beating a tour player's gamer for it to go into play, and we've done that with the ST190 line. Both the ST190 and the 190G, we're getting great ball speeds, really low spin, loads of forgiveness, just overall performance. So it's been a great year for Mizuno woods.
Well, and we're gonna sit down later and have a really deep dive into Mizuno and kind of what's going on in the current landscape. So I don't want to get into too many of those stories, but I'm keen to hear them.
For sure.
Some of those fitting stories and some people that maybe have been surprised with a driver and it wasn't quite they thought they were doing a little bit of testing and it's turned out to be shock horror that this thing is significantly better than what they had. So let's get into that when we have more time and detail for that sort of stuff. Let's talk a little bit about the Fairway wood.
Sure.
So we've got the TS with adjustable sleeve, and we've obviously got the bonded one as well.
Right, the TS standing for tour spoon. So they're both, we've got a 3 wood in both of these, and we've actually got a 5 wood in the bonded version.
Right.
Biggest differences between the two is the adjustability.
The sleeve.
The tour spoon is a little bit lower spin, a little bit stronger lofted off the bat. Even though they both say 15 on it, this one's about a ½ degree stronger.
Right,
so it's designed more for that slightly better player who wants a very low spin and the ability to adjust it to even lower, just because you can crank the loft down, move the loft up, do whatever you want to do. But the biggest technologies on these is we brought our composite crown onto these, which have allowed us to move a lot of weight from the top of the crown down to the bottom.
Right.
It's going to lower the sweet spot, it's going to make it more stable. Overall, just get you better performance. Then when you look at the sole side, we've got our wave technology. That's something that we've had in a couple of our woods for the last number of years, but it continues to evolve and get better. What that wave technology does is it actually, in theory, it weakens the bottom of the golf club. And weaken sounds like a bad thing, but the whole thing is it's trying to engage more of the head in the impact, so that when you strike low on the face, the head actually rebounds more because it's not naturally reinforced down here. So you get essentially a larger trampoline, so more ball speeds across the face.
A little more flex down there across the face.
Exactly right.
Interesting. Okay, so what's sort of the transition been like with these? I mean, the driver's been significant. We know that, definitely the story has been a bunch of tour players playing that product. What's it been like on the Fairway wood front?
It's funny, we really went all in on the driver right off the bat on tour, and we've almost like starting to dip our toes with the fairways, just because it's like you have to knock one wall down before you get to the next. But really, we're excited to start getting these in more players' hands, because the biggest thing that we've struggled with for fairways on tour is spin. The trend has been that these guys are just bombing the golf ball, and low spin fairway woods are really the norm now. You're seeing driver-like numbers. You're seeing fittings for fairways, almost like driver fittings.
It's becoming that way, isn't it?
It really is. And Mizuno fairway woods historically have spun too much. I'll be the first to admit that. They've had a little bit deeper center of gravity. We focus so much on what we call the sweet area, the overall toe heel moment of inertia, that we've actually lost a little bit in terms of the sweet spot height. With these, we actually got a good mix of forgiveness with low spin. Composite crown really helped on that. And the new geometry on the waves technology helped with that as well, just pulling more mass low and forward. So it's still very forgiving, but the spin is much lower than you've ever seen in Mizuno fairway wood.
I mean, we've not tested the Fairway wood together yet, have we?
Yet.
That's coming, I think, next week on our schedule next week. But
yeah, definitely.
I mean, I know certainly in the field that having tested the 3-wood so far, we've seen people, put that Fairway wood and play, and it's just literally blowing their socks off. The feel of it, the sound of it, the kind of spin, sort of reducing element of it as well.
Right.
It's been really, really interesting, especially for that player who maybe likes to play the kind of lower lofted, maybe have it as a little backup to the driver if they have days that are a bit of a struggle with the driver.
For sure.
That type of thing.
And there are a couple things that we did that are a little bit less noticeable that you can't like point at. If you look at the actual face geometry of this club versus our previous versions, the ST190 or the GT or the previous versions before that, the face shape itself got a little bit more driver-like, meaning it got a little bit deeper here, and the actual shaping of the face is a little bit more, I'd call it optimized to give you more ball speed. What that's going to do is it's going to be a little bit taller in the middle. That added height there is going to give you a bit more rebound. It's also going to give you more stability up and down. All these things just going to lead to better performance, more consistency in the fitting bay.
Right, love it. Well, we're excited to hit that one.
I'm really looking forward to that one for sure.
Yeah. And last week, I was looking for it, it's right there. Last week we started to do a little bit of testing with the CLK, and we were kind of raving fans, weren't we?
Before we even tried it, we were, yeah.
I know.
I mean, it looks great, obviously. We didn't hit a ton of shots with it. We were more using it for lie angle, but I think there was nothing but good performance from it from what we tested so far.
And this is in its second year in the lineup,
is.
Right?
Yeah. So the CLK was something that, I mean, in all honesty, in its first year, it blew out any numbers that we thought it was going to do, just because the performance is really good on this golf club. We did a couple things on it versus previous iterations.
Yeah.
The first thing we wanted to focus on is, for the Mizuno guy, typically tends to be on the lower handicap range.
Yeah. Right.
And a lot of the problems with hybrids and that type of golf club is the tendency to go left or tendency to draw. So with this, we started out with a little bit flatter lie angle.
Yeah.
That flatter lie angle is going to make it a little bit straighter or easier to not turn over, I should say.
Yep.
But then the technology-wise, we've got our miraging steel face to give you great ball speed. And then we've got that same wave technology that I was talking about on these Fairway woods. Again, increasing the rebound area, just because as you get smaller on a CLK, on a hybrid type club, that actual face is a lot smaller.
Right.
So it's tough to get as big a COR over a large area. So we wanted to do whatever we could to increase that. So overall, the club it performs really, really well.
And you can really see going from the CLK to the new Fairway with that the second generation of wave technology, and you can really see the extension of that where it's been sort of optimized and that sort of thing with the Fairway. You can really see the difference.
That's right.
On those two.
When you hold the two side by side, you can. It's along on the Fairway wood, and then it can actually get a little bit more in the center as well. Where on the hybrid, we actually wanted to make sure on the hybrid side, because the toe and heel misses, we want to get the COR very consistent from toe to heel.
Right.
So you actually see the wave technology actually extend out on this side as well.
Yeah,
so all these
forgiveness
things,
out there.
they're going to make sure you get better ball speeds across more of the face as well. So it's really just trying to optimize each one for each club.
Talk to me a little bit about the sort of design footprint of the driver. Go back to that, and we'll kind of have Matty hit a few shots with some of those. But I mean, it's so cosmetically appealing, the new driver. I think it's such a premium look. It really looks as good as you can really make a driver. Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
It's so funny how Mizuno is known for good looks. We're known for sleek. We're known as very sophisticated, almost old school classic on our irons. And then our woods, we did very much the opposite. We got a lot more bold. We went blue, and there were lots of moving parts, lots of gadgets on the wood. And a lot of that came from just our overall philosophy internally was we're only going to sell so many. So let's make sure if we sell this one, it's a Mizuno driver, which is a great theory if you're wanting to buy in and then sell out. But if your ultimate goal is to improve and continue to grow as a golf company, we knew we needed to take some of those cosmetic handcuffs off and really appeal to the Mizuno player, and really not just the Mizuno player, the Titleist player, the Callaway, TaylorMade, you name it. We wanted to make it more broad appeal. So that's where the black color came from, is let's make this as sleek, as cool, a club that really can complement the Mizuno irons, really.
Yeah. Well, for the first time ever, and I can genuinely say this, for the first time ever, people are coming in here asking now to hit the Mizuno driver. They're asking us before we've even, when we have our kind of little sort of chat with the customer when they come in, So, you know, have you been doing any window shopping? Has anything caught your eye? I really want to try the Mizuno driver. It's interesting, you know, and I think that's tour adoption. That's on the channel. Obviously, you know, we've been kind of seeing great results with it, and it's all those things. It's never one thing. It's got a bunch of things have to happen for that to be the case.
And it's funny you say that. It is our whole design philosophy and how we created the driver and to get the performance out of it. We talk about the sum of all the parts within the head. So it's not just there's one thing you can point at to say it performs because it's got this on the face because of this. It's just the perfect melding of all of that to make a good performing driver. And ultimately the story behind it is very similar. We've got tour adoption. We've got the right look at address. We've got more shaft options. We've got more fitting capabilities. All those things are blending to give you more momentum and more buzz behind it.
And I think it would be wrong not to touch upon the fact that one of the other key benefits in the marketplace this year's price point.
It really is.
I mean, that's kind of one of those things. If all things are equal, looks, feel, performance, and I can save a few bucks, people are going to go do it.
You're exactly right. And that's our whole thing is we spend all of our money. I mean, you look at our tour staff and our promotional budgets and all that versus some of our competitors. We put all that money into our product. And at the same time, we're not trying to raise the prices. We're not trying to go crazy with the pricing because we know this is an expensive game to begin with. So if we can get the performance and we don't need to raise the price, we're not going to. We're only going to raise the price when we say, you know, there's literally that much more cost into the head. We're passing that on. So ultimately, we are a little bit on the lower end on the price side compared to the industry. By no means are we a cheap driver, but at the same time, it's just a step below that like ultra premium price point.
Makes a difference though, it really does.
It absolutely does. I've heard people say that this year to me, that it's allowed them to have relocate budget towards other parts of the bag.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah, because you don't just want to have a new driver and everything else looks like crap. So you really want to make sure that you're spending your money wisely, but still getting performance out of it.
Okay. Well, why don't we hit a few with sort of both and kind of talk to the features? Yeah. Why don't we go CLK first?
Great.
Now, last week, Matty, we tested obviously the upright capabilities of this. So you know, this week we are going to test
going the other way.
We're going to test it on its flattest setting, which Chris was explaining to us. The flattest this hybrid can play is neutral.
So you set it on neutral to get it to play flattest.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're seeing. So that's down at
yeah, it's true. It's a single axis adapter, which all the Mizuno ones are a single axis adapter. And what that means is when it's in at its standard setting, that is the flattest it gets. So every setting you go around, essentially the clock from there, you're getting slightly more upright. So working its way all the way up to the most upright setting at 180 degrees from there.
Okay. Nice there, Matty. That was pretty much the number there we were looking for. Yeah, 237, you know, spinning it around the 4,000 mark, which is pretty close for what we're looking for.
Pretty much what you want.
Yeah, it's pretty much ideal, Matty. Yeah.
Let's hit a little better, actually.
Spin looked a little bit lower on that one.
Let's see where we're at.
Maybe not.
Yeah, just sitting right there, isn't
right
it?
at
Just
the same
right
number,
in that number, so that was
It's interesting.
That's pretty much ideal. I mean, we're coming in from the exact same apex where we were testing you earlier, around that 115 mark.
Well, this is, with this ball in this club, is shaping up to be more of a distance gap club. Versus, I feel like a lot of the times I'm hitting hybrids in here, and one will do that. Then the next shot goes like 275, then one goes 280, then one goes 230. Like that's the issue.
Trying to regulate those distances. It's not much good happens beyond the pin, you know.
Right. No,
especially
like
on
a par 5
the green is you know.
No. Most courses it's pretty punishing.
Yeah.
It's a little toey, but it's hang on just fine. Like I would have expected that to be kind of a bad miss normally, but it seems to be
sneaky in the toe.
Ball speed got up there too.
I know.
Impressive.
It's these are some of the quicker hybrids certainly that we've tested with Matt.
That's good.
Comes off nice and fast for sure.
Yeah.
It's probably the best one I hit.
Yeah, that's the most balanced flight.
Yeah. That's nice.
Yeah.
It's definitely a lot more of a controllable, flight where you expect to land the ball the right distance.
Well, and especially for a better player like you, when you get those ones that turn over so much, it just becomes such a guessing game in terms of how far it's going to go.
Yeah.
Unless it's just a tee club, that really is an issue.
Right.
If it's a tee club, I guess you don't really care that much if you hit an extra 15 once in a while, but for hitting into a green, it can be a problem.
Right.
I mean, those numbers right there, they're ideal for you.
That's good launch and spin, yeah?
It's perfect. Averaging 113 average peak height. It's coming in really soft.
It's nice.
It's pretty much
It's a
ideal.
good little 250 club, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's the 19 on neutral.
Just on neutral. So we'll mention it sits a bit flatter than most other manufacturers at standard.
That's
about
right.
a degree, Chris, or?
About a degree and a half,
About a
probably.
degree and a half.
So that was one of the things we wanted to do is start flat,
Yes.
because you have the ability to work it upright from there.
So that's important for people to know that if you're looking for a flat hybrid, it actually is a flat hybrid to start with.
Right.
And then you can adjust it back above.
Exactly. We almost want to start on the extreme one way and just give you the ability to dial it back.
Interesting.
Very cool.
That's nice, yeah.
Okay. Shall we get the driver out and hit a few with that?
Hit a couple with it, sure, yeah.
Yeah, we kind of mentioned that we're going to leave the 3-wood sort of breakdown and kind of
We'll do a full video on that
one out
next
week.
Yep, absolutely.
Let's do some testing again with the driver. It's a good looking flight.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that one. That was slightly low in the club, but otherwise.
So can it give us a rundown of the kind of process? How did when the journey to ST190? How did that kind of start, evolve, and kind of?
It's funny. It's kind of a long story where it started with. If you look at Mizuno drivers over the past, call it 10 years, they didn't really have an identity.
Right.
It'd be one year we'd do a MP driver, the next year a JPX or MX. It's like a consumer couldn't really build much confidence just because you'd have a very demanding player shape and then a very forgiving high left, game improvement shape. And a lot of that was because we tied our drivers to our iron launches.
Right.
And again, that was just us relying on what we do best, which was always irons.
Right.
So about 5 years ago, R&D, we asked, basically, we said we want to take it on ourselves to take the handcuffs off, let us just work on woods and really make that a priority and really focus on those. So that really started with the JPX 850 driver. The 850 was the first blue one that we had done in a long time, and it was the one that had the tracks all over the place.
Remember,
If you remember that club, extremely low spin, extremely
Seriously
adjustable.
low spin.
If it had one negative, it wasn't the most forgiving. If you hit it out on the toe, it would kind of fall out of the sky a little bit just because it was so low spin. But really, that was the start of R&D being able to put a lot of investment of time and resources behind the woods. From there, we went on to the JPX 900, and then the ST180 and ST180 and GT180 last year. And that was where we really took the final step of pulling it away from being tied to the irons. So with those, the ST and the GT, we brought in our SP700 face material, which gives you a ton of extra ball speed. We brought in basically a standalone driver platform, and that was our wave technology sole, our design, and it just was fully separated from the iron world. And then we took that a step further this year with the ST190. So again, it's just building on year over year what we had done, what was working, and how can we make it just ultimately a driver platform that a customer can rely on.
ST
stands for speed technology.
Speed technology.
So last year we had the ST and the GT. ST is for speed tech, GT for gravity tech. And the GT was the super adjustable. It had the center track, a toe track, a heel track, and also a face angle track. So this year we actually took the GT away and made the ST190G. So it's still within the ST family, but we really dialed back the level of adjustability because there was so much going on the last one.
I just while we have you, I want to pick your brain on that kind of the feature of having the ability to adjust face angle relative to loft.
Right.
And that's something that obviously, you know, when I was at TaylorMade, we had it with the ASP.
Yep.
We had it sitting in a very specific spot. So if we turned the loft down, we could tilt the face so we could actually have the loft down. So tell me a little bit about that for you guys. Was that a real functional technology at the time?
It's funny. It's one of those technologies that, in theory, it really doesn't do much, but it does a lot up here to the player. So it's like, we worked with that with our tour players a lot, where we'd have, once we got, you know, we add a little bit more loft for some guys who needed it, and all of a sudden the face looked hooked and they didn't want to play it.
That's the problem.
So how could we get a club that looked right at address regardless of what the loft was? And that's really where that came from. So, you know, in theory, as you, literally you're just changing the bounce of the driver is what it's doing. As you do that, what it's doing performance-wise is very little, but what it does confidence-wise for you to set up at address and know you can release through it, it did a lot more.
And that's the thing, is because without physically changing too much, just changing the look will change the delivery through what the player sees. And that's the biggest thing. So if you put something down there and a player automatically goes, oh, that looks good, that's your kind of first hurdle to overcome. How does it look in the player's hands? Because, you know, those first few swings, they're going to either be apprehensive or filled with confidence, or, you know, you're going to get some kind of reaction to what they see. So that was primarily the function of that.
You're exactly right. Because I mean, ultimately, it's not changing the relation of the shaft to the face. It's changing the relation of the ground to the face. So that's all it was really doing. But you're right. It's just giving that confidence so that you aren't apprehensive on those first swings.
We've got we've got some videos that we're planning on doing, and one that really explains the adjustable sleeve is one we've got coming up, because
great.
I think that's something that people are still a little bit lost with, the actual kind of functionality and purpose of the adjustable sleeve, and thinking that you can take that driver and change the loft on it significantly to kind of make that massive ball flight adjustment. So we're going to dive into that in the next couple of weeks. And
that'll be great. The understanding of loft versus e-loft and what those actually mean to a player.
It's very misunderstood. I mean,
totally.
I definitely don't understand it myself to any degree. And I think people accept that it does work, but it's the function of how it works that is completely people just don't get it.
That's exactly it. Yeah. Okay. Well, let's see a few more, Matty. That's
a couple
that's
fun
good
ones
to know. Yeah. Oh boy.
That was good.
Sounded like that had some speed to it.
It was really nice. Especially when we got you from a standing start, 172.
My favorite.
I know. We're going to talk to you for 10 minutes and then ask you to hit a 325-yard drive.
That's when we were at the PGA show with Sadlowski.
That's right.
I was saying to him, I was like, I know people are impressed by like how fast you swing. To me, it's more impressive that he stands for 20 minutes and then literally picks up a driver and hits like 195 balls. After
so
standing.
True.
Because you know how I am. It's 3-4 swings usually to get back up to where I could be. He just does it from the beginning.
That's right. And people talk about the speed of you know, how fast they swing it, and that's why there's sometimes some differences between range speed and course speed, and kind of walking and kind of moving and kind of having motion induced speed, because. If you're walking to the tee, you grab your driver out the bag, you make a few practice swings, you know, that's such a different environment from beating ball after ball.
Totally.
And we deal with that a lot when we're working with tour players doing fittings and stuff, because they can work on a range. We can say, well, here's the numbers 100%. On the range, but go out on the course, because that's really the true test of when you're swinging your fastest, when you're actually going through the motions of a tour setting.
That's very true.
No, that's it. And sometimes, and we've spoken a little bit about that when we were kind of working with Gary Woodland a few years ago, and he needed to be fit into a slightly different window on the range, because what he does in the course is he gets a little bit narrower in his downswing, he squeezes it a little bit more, and he spins it a little bit more when he gets on the course. So the window you have to fit him into on the range is actually a different window than he has to play in on the course. You have to factor in the additional 400 or 500 RPMs that he produces on the golf course.
That's impressive that he recognizes that too. That's really nice.
Yeah, that he gets a little quick in transition, he gets a fraction narrow, and can kind of retain a little bit too much downcock in the downswing.
feel like that's common for a lot of players. There's got to be a bit of a difference once you go to the course, whether it's from being nervous or whatever it is.
I know, and like you say, that the key to that is identifying and understanding that.
Yeah, what is it exactly?
That's what you're up to when you're in game time.
Right.
Okay, Matty. So we've done it to you again.
That wasn't 10 minutes.
Is that neck stiffening up?
A little bit.
Yeah, you've done.
I'm liking it again.
Proud again.
I think the higher spin ball is going to be for me this year. I really do.
Yeah.
I'd rather shave a few yards and see it hang on when that may have been a slight pull, but it kind of stays on the map.
Still 2,300.
I know.
It's good, right?
It's in a really nice window for you.
It's fun. I love you saying that. Just you go back and look at some players. I mean, Tiger's the perfect example. Who says, "Give me the highest spin ball you can give me, and leave it to me to knock that spin off." So
for sure. And you've said, Ian says, if your handicap comes from hitting it too short, then fine. Go with a low spin ball so you can get the ball closer to the green. Yeah, but that, for me, and a lot of people probably, your handicap is more from missing greens, hitting bad chip shots, hooking it into the rough or something like that. Whereas something like that, I think, just will keep you a little more. It'll forgive your misses better.
Yeah. No, it's good.
All right.
Excellent. Yeah, I mean, this is the deeper dive we've been waiting to do on the woods, and some explanation as to why these are working so well. And maybe just as it's caught my eye, so maybe let's touch on it just before we sort of wrap this up. What are you seeing from 190G in terms of the adjustability on the face and by kind of moving these weights around the track?
So it's funny. So we had extra weight savings that we did from the composite crown and a couple of other things that we use differently between the two models. Yeah. So on the standard 190, we put that extra mass back in the back. Right. What it's going to do in the back is going to increase the stability. Yeah. Ultimately, that's going to mean it's going to spin a bit more than this one just because we put more mass forward on here.
Right.
So with the extra mass here, there's 2 7-gram tungsten weights on 2 tracks. Yeah. So if you put these 2 weights all the way back, it's going to spin very similar to that club. But what we want to do is give the ability to knock spin down even further, and that comes from shoving those weights closer to the face. Right. And one of the great things is with these 2 tracks, the weights aren't locked into either track. So you
I love that.
That's cool.
It's really clever.
So you can take one out from the toe and put it in the heel?
Absolutely. So even though it's only 2 7-gram weights, you could concentrate 14 grams of weight on the heel, 14 grams on the toe. So ultimately, that's where you can get a lot of swing correction on that. It's funny, you look at the industry and you see a lot of the non-adjustable is for the, more draw bias and all that stuff. Actually, you could make this one far more draw bias than that one just because of the amount of mass you can move around.
That's cool.
So ultimately, it's just, this is the one that you have so much fitting capabilities with. Right. And this one, you have different head options where you can fit, but ultimately the weight's locked.
Yeah, interesting. It's good, isn't it? Yeah. Good to have those options.
Absolutely. Can you, because Ian tends to sometimes want a heavier weight for certain players, can you put a third weight on that if you want to bump it up?
Absolutely.
I know you would love that.
I know, or even a junior taking maybe take a weight out and reduce the head weight.
That's exactly right. Since people are starting to recognize the ability to play a club a little bit shorter, get more consistent strikes, if that swing weight drops, then you could add more mass into that in a third weight in the track. Yeah. So it gives tons of different options.
I love that you could literally give it a little turn and actually pop one of the weights out and slide it over. Really smart.
You got to hit that soon. That's on your test list.
I know. Yeah, no, my driver testing's coming up very soon.
Awesome. All right.
Okay. Excellent. All right, guys. Well, hopefully this has answered more questions, more than just your average sort of review as to what you kind of hear is the overview of this stuff. This is more of a technical dive into the product. So hope you enjoyed it. Let us know your questions. Leave them below. We'd love to see what you guys think, and we'll see you again soon.